Panini Donruss Elite Football. It's one of the first products. I think it might be the first product that's going to have rookie autographs for this year. So I think there are still a couple products that are coming out from last year's football. Uh, and then we're kind of getting started, which is, like I said before, I think at some point Panini just needs to like bite the bullet and just say here, and they wouldn't literally, I don't think they would ever do this, but they just need to bite the bullet and say, here are all the products we're going to release the rest of last year's product. Like I think there's a bunch of basketball that still is coming out. I don't know. It's probably a supply chain thing. It's probably still catching up from the pandemic. It's probably also catching up a little bit from like demand not being as high compared to when like the pandemic in general. I think they probably were scheduling a lot of these either new products or they're bringing back products or just scheduling it kind of in general. They were probably scheduling them during the height of everything, during the height of, the pandemic when sports cards were as popular as maybe they'll ever be. I'm not 100% sure if we ever get back to that point. I think we probably do, but it's going to be a lot slower. And I don't think there's going to be, maybe there won't be as much of an opportunity to uh, flip just everything, just be able to buy and sell everything at crazy profits. But the one thing I think with Donruss Elite that I do like about it is that I think Panini and Tops, and I'll get into the Panini. There's a Panini sneaker that's either going to be in another video or in the live stream if you're watching this. But the sneaker, I think Panini, they need to figure out how to brand their products, and it might even be a little bit too late to be honest, because there's rumors that Fanatics is buying them. I'm not 100% sure if that's true or not. But so what I think I like about Panini Donruss Elite is that they're using branding, the Donruss branding, which is really is just the namesake. Like it really doesn't have much to do with Donruss in general. But I do think expanding on the Donruss brand, I think is a good idea. I think the expansion of certain brands is one of the strategies that I would use. And maybe I don't know how Tops would be able to do it because Tops doesn't really like they have Tops and Tops Chrome, but like uh with Donruss, for example, they have like Donruss Elite, they have clearly Donruss, they have Optic, which is Donruss Optic, I believe. So I think expanding on the brands that they have is probably one of the strategies I would try to go with. Like instead of coming up with new brands all the time. Like I would just try to tie the brands into existing brands. Um, and I would say even if like I, I think I've talked about this in the past with branding, I would look at it and say if you're going to come out, like I think that they should make each time of the year a specific brand that's coming out. So like for 3 to 4 months, it would be Prism. So it would be like it's Prism season where it's like I'm making up products at this point, but Prism comes out, and then they come up with some other Prism brand. They come up with some other Prism product, and then they come up with another one. And for 3 months, the Prism products are the only ones that come out. And I don't know if they'd be able to do this with some of the higher end products because like National Treasures and Immaculate and Impeccable and Flawless and all that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily think they would be able to brand those together at this point. I think those brands have kind of transcended the being able to bring them back and put them in a box. Now, also Panini at the same time, like who really knows what's going to happen with Panini after the football and basketball licenses expire and they go to Fanatics, which is now Tops. We'll see sort of what happens there. But like uh what they do with Donruss, for example, like I think that I almost wish that they would stagger the releases where it's like throughout the year, the releases get more important as well. So, like, I'm going to go back and I'll use Donruss for an example because they have a bunch of different brands. You start the year with Donruss. I almost think that they should make it where it's like the brands sort of grow, where the brand is like more important as you go along throughout the year. Where like then, Prism, I think if they came out with Prism during the Super Bowl, that's how I would brand Prism. I would brand it as like the cards that you need to get. And also that would also help with Prism because I think then you could include players that potentially might not be in Prism. I would be okay with Prism coming out later on in the year as long as like it's not coming out after the next year's draft for the previous year's players. Like, and that's sort of what we've seen with a lot of these products with Panini. And like I said, they would never do this, but they should just bite the bullet for 1 year and say, "Here are all the products that we still have to release from last year. Here they all are. Unfortunately, we couldn't really release them the way that we wanted to. Here they are." Or put them somehow combine all of them and put them into like a Chronicles product or something along those lines. Like, I don't know, maybe start with Chronicles. Like, if I were Panini and I were to do this strategy, I would go Chronicles would be the first release of the year for basketball and football. And then I would do well other for pro products, because obviously they have the collegiate products, which I think is that strategy would be a little bit different. I don't love those products. I would almost, it could even be that they do all the collegiate products, which is, I guess, what they technically do. They do that, I guess, but it would be like they brand a few months with just collegiate products, and then maybe I don't know if they would be able to brand it with Chronicles products or how they would do it. But then you go Donruss, then you go um Select, probably, like, that would be my next brand, and then you go Prism, and that's how I would break up the year when it comes to products, that how I would release them. And I've always said that I would love to see, like, a paper Prism product, and I get that Prism has sort of branded itself as, like, a chrome product, a premium chromium type product, but I think what I would like to see is them expand on some of the more popular brands rather than I would rather see them expand down on some of the more popular products than try to expand up on some of the less popular products, if that makes sense. Like, I would like a paper prism product more than I would like a clearly Donruss. Like, I don't necessarily love clearly Donruss. I think it's a fine product. If you're breaking or if you're opening it, it's fine. But I think that they need to expand that brand a little bit differently. And I don't know, maybe at the beginning of the year, that means, like, Optic is part of, like, each I guess this is I'm sort of brainstorming as we're making this video here a little bit, but, it would be like, the Don because Optic is part of Donruss, it's Optic Donruss. That would be like the big product that comes out. Like, I don't know when they would start it. It probably would be I'd say probably after the draft is when I would do the collegiate products up until the start of the year, and almost like it would be like the preseason schedule. And then, like, once the season starts, if we're looking at Donruss for this example, the Donruss season, Optic would come out around the time the start of the year, and then Select. And I don't know if they would try and brand Select and expand that brand a little bit, or if there are other products that they would put. But then, like, Prism, I would come out with that product during the Super Bowl, to be honest. And I would come out with all these big products. Like, I would come out with Prism for basketball during the NBA Finals. I mean, it almost seems like I can't believe I've never thought of that. Like, it seems like something that would be pretty obvious, in my opinion, to try and come out with these products like the around when the sports are at the peak of people interested in them. Or All-Star weekend should also be like, there should be more products coming out during All-Star weekend, and it should be and that's where I think I've talked about this, baseball and I think football, not exactly, because football is sort of at the end of the season, but like for basketball, it's in the middle of the season. Come out with a product during the All-Star break, and then, somehow integrate that into what's going on. Like, I don't know, if I were Panini, I would try and sponsor one of the All-Star events, like how it's the Sprite Slam Dunk contest. I would try and, sponsor whatever event. And I mean, if you really want to get crazy, you even could say, like, here's a box of cards. One of the challenges is the first one to find a card or something like that, or to find a player, or something along those lines. Like, do even maybe like a combine where there's cards related. I don't know. This, like I said, this is sort of brainstorming and getting a little crazy, but I think that's how I would brand these products a little bit differently than I think how they're branding them now.